All right, hi everybody, and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about the games that I beat in July of 2019. So I'll be the first to admit that July was not my best month in terms of beating games. I actually have 3 games here to share with you that I was able to get all the way through. And that's mostly because there's been a lot of games that I've been playing a lot of that I either haven't finished yet and hopefully should show up next month, or realistically can't be finished. So I think before we go over the 3 that I did beat, I did just want to briefly touch on some of the other games that I've been playing a lot of and why maybe this list is a little smaller than it typically is. The first one is I've been playing a lot of Apex Legends. So Season 2 came out for Apex Legends, which introduced a lot of stuff that kind of got the game to the spot where I wanted it to be. They made a lot of minor changes. They did some changes to the map where they've moved some locations around and some creatures are now spawning on the map and things like that. But the big addition that they added that drew me in was the way that they implemented the Season 2 Battle Pass. So they finally added some dailies so you can log in each day and do 3 different daily quests. And in addition to that, they also added weeklies that you can use to level up your battle pass, which finally gives the game a little bit of, I guess it gives a little bit of carrot for the stick, right? So now there's finally something for me to kind of focus on outside of just trying to place first in every round. Even when I don't come in first, second, or third, I still feel good because it's like, hey, you know what? I was able to get a couple of kills with Bangalore, or I was able to loot and get headshots with a particular weapon or whatever it might be. So it adds the variety that I wanted from the game, and I'm having a lot of fun digging in and playing it whenever my friends are available to get into a squad. So Apex Legends has been filling a good amount of my time, and more recently, in the last couple of weeks, 1 week actually, I think just the last week, maybe 2. Um, we started playing Final Fantasy XIV again. So obviously the Shadowbringers expansion came out, and that's not really the content that I'm actually playing. Um, in reality, it was sort of the catalyst to get me back into the game. So for anyone that's not aware, my history with Final Fantasy XIV is that I played a lot specifically during Heavensward. So I played through A Realm Reborn, and the Heavensward content when Heavensward was new. And then I took a break for a while. I didn't play Stormblood. And now that Shadowbringers is out and it's getting amazing reviews, everyone says that it's like one of the best MMOs they've ever played, but also one of the best RPGs that they've ever played. I was more interested to go back and finally try to squeeze in the time to play all the content that I'd missed. It just so happens that Leah, my girlfriend, was interested in Final Fantasy XIV too, or Final Fantasy XIV as well. And so we started playing together. And she started a brand new character. She wasn't able to get into my server, and so she created a character on a different server, and I've been doing the cross-realm play to go play with her. And we're still in the early stages, leveling up and sort of building her character out, figuring out what she's going to be playing as. And so really my Final Fantasy XIV experience has been replaying some of the original Realm Reborn content with her, which has been a ton of fun, and I'm really looking forward to us getting deeper into the game, to the spots where the story really starts to expand out, where it starts to get really engrossing, and I think there'll be some areas later on, especially in Heavensward, that I know she'll really like. So we have a Battle Royale game in Apex Legends and an MMO in Final Fantasy XIV, which brings me to the 3 games that I'm playing, or the 3 games that I beat. And the first of those 3, and I think the first one of them that I finished, is Fox and Forests. So this is a 2D platformer, and it was published physically by Strictly Limited Games. See if I can get a shot for you there. See if it'll focus. So there we go, Strictly Limited Games, which is one of these sort of pop-up publishers that have been producing a lot of physical editions of Strictly Limited. In particular does a good amount of Switch games. And so let's see if we can get the focus back here. What Fox and Forests is a 2D platformer, very much in the style of something that you'd play on the Super Nintendo or Sega Genesis. So you play as a fox, and he has kind of this knife attack and some jumping spin attacks and stuff. And your goal is to travel through these different levels, collecting magic nuts and collecting these little icons that are little stone objects that you can use to power up your character and things like that. And ultimately try to save this world that has lost its seasons. The sort of unique hook of this game, the mechanic that sets it apart from just a typical platformer, is that you can control the seasons. So each stage has one season that you can swap between, and you do some light puzzling and platforming using those season swaps. So you might be playing in summer, and then you'd swap it to winter to freeze a river, which lets you cross a path that you wouldn't otherwise be able to. And it does have some kind of unique uses of that. For example, there's a level where you are running through a level that is summer themed, and you see a mushroom. And when you switch the season to fall, the mushroom, having had a season to grow, has grown much larger and now can be used as a platform to progress. So they do that pretty well. But not everything in the game is quite that clever. There are some boss fights in here that are pretty rigid and sort of frustrating. And the levels can be kind of tedious after a while. It has a feel, like I said, it does feel like one of those old Sega Genesis or Super Nintendo platformers, but it feels like maybe some of the mid-range ones, not the ones that everybody talks about, but maybe one of those that's licensed after a particular cartoon at the time that was good, but unless you grew up with it, isn't anyone's favorite at this point. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to recommend or not. If it's cheap, it's worth checking out, especially if you're a fan of platformers. It has some really great music in it, but your mileage is going to vary depending on your tolerance for repetitive platformers. And in particular, the collectibles you find in the levels gate your progress into future levels, and so often you do have to go back and revisit levels to really hunt and find these seeds that'll let you progress. So I'll leave it up to you to decide if that's something that you think will bother you, but it took me a while, but I was able to finish Fox and Forests. All right. Our next game is Super Mario Maker 2. Yes, believe it or not, it does have a single player. I didn't plan on buying this game, to be perfectly honest. When the first Super Mario Maker came out, I picked it up because there was so much excitement, so much hype around it, and I quickly realized that, at least at that point, I just really wasn't into the idea of creating levels. And so I did some playing around of levels online and sort of dropped the original Mario Maker pretty fast. This one, though, I was going to the store to pick up another game. I was going to pick up Judgment on the PS4, which is another game I've been playing a lot of and hopefully shows up next month in the games I beat. But I went to pick that up, and I'll be honest, once again, the hype surrounding this game got a hold of me. It was right after Summer Games Done Quick, and so I had watched a lot of Kaizo and Super Mario speedruns, and it had really gotten me in the mood for some difficult Mario levels. So I decided to pick this one up. And initially I played for the first couple of weeks just only levels online, and I had a lot of fun with that. There are some insanely creative levels. I think that the online community for creating levels in Super Mario Maker 2 is a lot stronger than in the first one, or at least I've been able to discover stuff more thanks to like the tags and the what's new system. But I've been playing a lot of awesome speedrun levels, some pretty difficult Kaizo-ish levels, nothing crazy, but some pretty hard levels by Mario standards. And then just some other fun, unique, interesting levels too. There's so much diversity. This is a hard game to complain about. But as part of playing through it, I did decide, you know what, it has a single player. I might as well try to go through it. And it didn't take more than a couple hours to get all the way through. The single player is sort of framed around concepts that they expect you might want to put into levels that you create by yourself. So each level sort of serves as like a demo of one particular concept. So one level will show you switching gravity, or another level might show you, hey, you can use the Bowser's car to create kind of pseudo shoot 'em up levels. So levels aren't too long, they're not too hard, and they're really more informative than they are difficult in most cases. It's all wrapped around this sort of layer of rebuilding Peach's castle. But Fun game, mostly exciting for the online. I've really just been playing a lot of online levels, like I said, but the single player was not terrible. And then the last one, and probably the one that I had the most fun with this week, which is a game that you're not going to be expecting. But let me give a little bit of setup for it. So recently, I have been really nostalgic for the sort of mid to late 2000 aughts, so like 2006 to 2010, that era in gaming. Part of that is because it was a big era in gaming for me. It was when the 360 was on top of the world, PS3 was finally starting to catch up, and handheld gaming was like stronger than it had ever been. And so it was just a really incredible time to be playing games. And I don't know what it is, but lately I've been thinking back to that period of time a lot and just sort of missing it. And so, not on the consoles, but on a handheld, I decided, you know what, I will go back and I will play something from that era that I had never really played before. And more than any other system, I was really nostalgic about the PSP. I remember bringing my PSP with me to high school to watch music videos in the middle of my German class, and it kind of was like my cell phone is now. It was the device that was always with me at all times. And I played a good amount of games on the PSP. I remember a lot of times playing like SOCOM Fireteam Bravo, and I played a lot of the RPGs on PSP. But one game that I never played, which will probably surprise a lot of people, is God of War, Chains of Olympus. So I have never played either of the God of War games on PSP. And I thought, you know what better way to sort of scratch this nostalgic itch than to go back and play one of the most popular series that was ever on the PSP. And I have them both, so I decided to start with this one. And I have to admit, man, this game holds up. I was really impressed. Granted, I haven't played this style of God of War in many, many years. Maybe not since God of War 2, because I never played God of War 3. I did play the most recent God of War, which you would know if you had watched my 2018 Game of the Year video. It was on that list because I thought it was awesome. But this older style of God of War, I hadn't played really in a long time. But as soon as I popped it in and started playing, it sort of all just came rushing back to me. The controls instantly felt familiar. The camera movement felt familiar. The QTE kill sequences brought me back. Like, it really did bring me back to that era in gaming, or a little bit before, and remind me of the fun I used to have back then. In terms of how this game runs on the PSP, it's almost indistinguishable from the PS2 versions. There are some models that are a little lower res and some textures that are a little bit lower res, but by and large, this is the entire God of War experience crammed down into a handheld version. And it has the sense of scale. It has a few fun boss fights. It has all the combos. It has all the moves. It has some weapon variety, some magic variety. It's just a ton of fun. Ready at Dawn did a really great job with this game. And I mentioned this on Twitter, but it's a shame that I didn't play this back in the day, because this, I think, would have easily been one of my all-time favorite PSP games. Now we'll have to give it some time and see how it sits compared to all the others that I've played. But yeah, in terms of handheld action games, this is just incredible. And I'm very excited to hopefully check out Ghost of Sparta very soon. So if you have not played this game, I can't imagine if you are a fan of the PSP that you haven't. But if for whatever chance you haven't, or you picked it up at a garage sale or something and you just haven't gotten around to it, try to scooch it closer to the top of your list, because it is a lot of fun, especially if, like me, you are looking back like 10 years ago or so and kind of missing what the gaming landscape was back then. Not to say that the current gaming landscape isn't awesome, but it's nice to look back at your past and feel the warm fuzzies, right? And that is it. Like I said, I have been playing some other games. I'm a good chunk of the way through Judgment, which I hope to have finished up here pretty soon in time for the next video. I picked up Fire Emblem Three Houses, and I'm looking forward to that. And a number of other games. I know it's been a while since I've done a pickup video. And to be honest, I've picked up a lot since my last pickup video. So we'll see what I decide to do. I might release a pickup video that goes over everything that I've picked up. I might release one that just covers some of the more recent stuff. We'll see. If you have any preferences, let me know. But yeah, those 3 games were what I covered this month. And I have a suspicion that next month will be a pretty good one. We've got some awesome games coming out. I've got a couple that I've been working on. So yeah, great month. Love to play the games. And as always, I appreciate you watching the video. I appreciate you watching all the way through the video. I would love to know what you finished in July of 2019. So please feel free to put into the comments anything that you've been playing and anything that you managed to beat. And with that, I guess I will just see you in another video. Thanks.